Last winter, I was 32 years old and working from home as a freelance graphic designer. I enjoyed the peace of being alone, but after my breakup, that quiet felt heavy. My house was one of those standard cookie cutters on a cul-de-sac, and the snow outside made everything look blank and empty. I remember thinking I hadn't stopped thinking about what happened. I was working late one evening when I first heard it, a soft tapping noise on the window. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was just the trees. I got up and looked outside. Nothing. Just darkness and snow. I went back to my work, but it happened again. My heart raced a little as I brushed it aside. Over the week, that tapping continued, showing up at odd hours. Once late at night, another time early morning. Each time, my heart pounded a bit faster. It felt like someone was trying to get my attention, and I hated it. I tried to focus, but the noise haunted me. Then one night I heard a thump from the basement. That made my heart drop. I almost didn't want to check it out, but I had to know. I opened the basement door and it creaked as if it didn't want to let me in. I stepped down onto the cold concrete. My breath quickened. I called out, "Hello?" Silence. Just the weight of nothing. I forced myself back upstairs, feeling shaky. I thought maybe it was just a pipe, maybe the wind. Days passed, and then there was giggling. I couldn't believe it. It echoed through the halls, soft and far away. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. I had been alone for so long. That laughter again came from the living room. My skin crawled. I hesitated to call for help. There was nobody to call. By the end of that week, it felt like my house was watching me. I didn't know why I stayed, but I couldn't leave. The noises kept going, and I felt the pull to figure out why. Were those noises remnants of past tenants, I wondered, or maybe something else? Then one night the tapping changed. It became more urgent, like it wanted me to listen. I walked to the window ready to face it, but I froze. I saw a shadow moving outside. I blinked, and it was gone. Panic surged through me. I had to know. As I turned to go back inside, the giggling returned. It was clearer this time, echoing in my ears. I felt cold all over. It was right behind me. I didn't dare turn around. The last thing I wanted was to see what might be there. I held my breath, feeling the air thicken around me. Silence fell, but it was the kind of silence that came before a storm. I could feel the weight of something waiting, lurking just out of sight. My heart raced. I wanted to scream, but I feared it would only draw whatever was there closer. Finally, the giggling stopped. I turned slowly, fighting the urge to bolt. As I did, the room felt colder, and I shivered despite the layers I wore. I glanced around, searching for some sign of life, a glimpse of movement, a shadow in the corner. Nothing, just me and the stillness of my home. My instincts screamed at me to leave the living room, to get away from whatever was haunting me. But curiosity pulled me closer to the window. The night was deep, blanketed in snow, and the pale moonlight cast strange shapes. I leaned closer, feeling foolish for being so frightened of shadows. But then I remembered the tapping, the laughter, and I hesitated. Just as I turned away, my eyes caught a flicker near the edge of the yard. It was a light, small and flickering like a candle. My heart dropped. What could it be? My mind raced through possibilities. Was it someone playing a prank on me? Or was something far worse watching just beyond the window? I grabbed my jacket and slipped on my boots, forcing myself to move. I needed to know what that light was. I stepped outside, the crunch of the snow beneath my feet echoing in the stillness. I glanced around before heading towards the flickering glow. Each step felt heavy, my pulse echoing in my ears. Once I reached the edge of the yard, the light danced more energetically. It looked like it might be coming from the old tree line behind my house. I squinted, trying to discern a shape or figure. That's when I saw it, a small figure, just tall enough to be a child, dancing with what looked like a lantern. The sight sent a chill through me. Who would be out here in this kind of weather? "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. The figure froze, caught in the light. For a moment we stared at each other, me completely bewildered, and the figure, eyes wide but unblinking. Then it turned and dashed deeper into the woods. I should have turned back. I should have ran. but something compelled me to follow. I couldn't explain it. Maybe I thought I could help whoever it was. Or maybe I was just tired of feeling powerless. I moved into the shadows, the cold biting at my skin, adrenaline pushing me forward. As I stepped between the trees, the giggling came back, more pronounced this time. It echoed off the trunks like a chorus of mischievous children. Shadows twisted around me, and I felt the weight of eyes watching. Fear gripped my chest as I quickened my pace. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. I stood frozen, my breath visible in the air. Then darkness fell. The moon disappeared behind a thick curtain of clouds, plunging me into an abyss. The shadows around me thickened, closing in, and I knew I had made a mistake. And then I heard it, a whisper, soft and chilling. "Stay with us." I spun around, panic surging, but the remnants of laughter danced in the air, echoing closer. I was not alone. I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my rib cage. The whisper hung in the air, thick and heavy, making it hard to think. "Stay with us." The words replayed in my mind like an eerie lullaby. I scanned the darkness, dread rising within me. I took a step back, ready to flee, when I heard a noise that froze me in place. A soft rustle followed by a giggle. But it was more sinister than before, a high-pitched sound that made my hair stand on end. I cursed my curiosity for leading me deeper into this nightmare. Just as I turned to run, the flickering light returned, this time from further back in the woods. I didn't want to go. Every instinct screamed for me to run home, but an unsettling mix of fear and compulsion gripped me. I couldn't let whatever was out there win. With shaky breaths, I pressed onward, edged by shadows extending from the trees, my eyes glued to the light. The whispers grew louder, as if they were echoing from all around. "Stay with us. Stay." Then I caught sight of the figure again, darting between the trunks like a wraith. It paused, glancing back at me, and for the briefest moment I saw its face. Hollow eyes, pale skin, lips twisted in a grin that sent ice through my veins. I didn't want to believe this childlike creature was real, but doubt began to creep in. What if it was leading me somewhere? A part of me screamed to turn back, but the light pulsed invitingly. I moved forward again, almost against my will. The laughter, soft yet haunting, wrapped around me, pulling me deeper into the woods. There was no turning back now. After what felt like an eternity of twisting paths, I saw a clearing ahead. The light illuminated an old decrepit tree stump surrounded by more flickering lights. They floated gently, casting an unsettling glow on the frost-covered ground. I squinted, trying to make sense of the scene. And that's when I realized they weren't lanterns, they were small, delicate orbs, suspended in the air, pulsing with an otherworldly light. I felt a thrill of terror, realizing I was not alone. The shadows danced around me, whispering sweetly, "Join us. Forever. It's so lonely here." The figure reappeared, closer this time. I could almost reach out and touch it, but I didn't dare. I stood paralyzed, grappling with the unknown, and my instincts screamed louder than ever. Then the ground beneath me trembled slightly. I turned, my eyes wide with fear and confusion, and for a moment, I thought I saw something moving just beyond the trees, a large, dark shape watching, waiting. My heart raced. Whatever I had stumbled upon was far beyond my comprehension. The laughter erupted anew, wild and chaotic, as the orb lights swirled faster. "Stay with us," they chimed in unison, and I knew I had to make a choice. Do I run, or do I stay and face the unknown? I took a shaky breath, glancing desperately from the lights to the figure. It felt as if the air around me had thickened. My instincts screamed at me to run, but the soft laughter bewitched my senses, making it almost impossible to move. I felt rooted to the spot, trapped in this nightmare. Then, just as the laughter reached a fevered pitch, the figure lunged forward, a blur of motion. I barely had time to react as it flitted behind the tree stump. In that instant, something inside me broke. I turned and sprinted, my feet pounding against the frost-laden ground, heart racing. But the laughter followed me, echoing around me as the lights danced just out of reach. "Stay with us! Stay!" I veered around a tree, hands scraping against the bark as I struggled not to trip. I knew I couldn't let them catch me. My breath came in short gasps, the cold air stinging my lungs. But my escape hit a wall as I reached the edge of the clearing I had first entered. The air shimmered like a heat wave, blocking my path. I stumbled to a halt, merging panic and disbelief. Had I truly just run in circles? I looked back at the figure. Now it stood just behind the stump, its grin wider and more grotesque. "Stay, forever," it sang, lifting a hand as if inviting me to come closer. That was when the air shifted again. A low growl rolled from the depths of the woods, deep and threatening. The figure's smile faltered, replaced by an expression that was somehow both curious and alarmed. It glanced past me, eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. I turned slowly, terrified of what I would find. The large, dark shape was unmistakable now, moving out from the shadows. It was massive, towering above me, a creature with limbs that wrapped around trees like vines. It had eyes that glowed unnaturally in the dark, fixating on me like a predator surveying its prey. "Help us!" the figure shouted, betrayal clear in its voice, and I realized the creature wasn't just waiting. It was watching over them, guarding them. In a split second, my chance came. I dashed to the right, hope gripping me with the strength of a vice. The growl transitioned into a roar, vibrating the ground beneath me as I ducked behind a thicket. The laughter now turned frantic, a desperate wail trailing behind me. "Stay, please stay!" The twinkling orbs flickered violently, fighting against the dark creature that lurked behind. I could hear branches snapping, the muffled sounds of something being torn apart. "Run!" I heard the figure scream, its voice now stripped of that ghastly sweetness. The command struck me like a bolt, and I didn't hesitate. I took off into the trees, the forest feeling alive around me as I skirted roots and branches. My only thought was to escape. With every frantic step, I could sense the creature looming behind me, and even as I fled, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being hunted. But then, in my desperate flight, I stumbled into another clearing, a new one bathed in an eerie silver light. And that's when I saw it, a small wooden sign half buried in the frost, bearing a single word: "Beware." My gut twisted, panic rising anew as I realized I may have stumbled into even deeper danger. The stillness around me felt suffocating, the kind that promised nothing good at all. Suddenly I wished I had just stayed home, safe and unaware. Everything around me was still, but I could feel the tension in the air, a promise of something looming just at the edges of the trees. My pulse thumped in my ears, drowning out every other sound. I was hyper-aware of my surroundings, waiting for the next thing to scare me, the next noise to shatter the silence. That's when I heard it, a rustling from behind the thicket where I had just hidden. It was low and erratic, almost like the shifting of something large. My heart jumped into my throat. I was far from safe, and this place felt like a trap. I crouched low, hoping to blend into the ground, my breath held tight in my chest. Then, another noise came. This time a skittering sound, quick and unsettling. It was as if something small was racing across the forest floor, but accompanied by something that was definitely not small. Panic clawed at my insides. Were there more of them? I could visualize them lurking in the shadows, eyes gleaming as their laughter echoed in the dark. I needed to move. I turned to my left where I thought the closest way out might be. My gut twisted as I caught a glimpse of movement. The figure from before darted between the trees, its form flickering in and out of sight. It looked more desperate than before, as if it were trying to warn me rather than lure me in. I took a step towards it, torn. Was I making a mistake? Was this a trap? But then the growl behind me rumbled again, deeper this time, vibrating through the ground. The creature was not gone. It was still hunting. "Help!" I barely breathed the word, unsure if anyone else was in this nightmare with me. In response, the rustling sound intensified, branches shifting as whatever had been skittering approached. Every instinct shouted for me to run, but I found myself frozen. The growl turned into a howl, a haunting echo through the trees, And in that moment of dread, I fell to my knees. I couldn't stay here. I needed to decide. The glimmering creature or the darkness behind. One promised something. The other instilled fear. My body finally obeyed me, and I pushed myself to my feet. I chose to follow the flickering figure. I ran hard, each footfall feeling heavy and almost futile against the backdrop of that menacing howl. The laughter faded behind me, replaced by a kind of eerie silence. Then I spotted a break in the trees, a faint glowing path. Hope surged within me, and I turned towards it. But just as I stepped forward, the ground beneath my feet gave way, and I tumbled into darkness. I landed hard. The breath knocked from my lungs. My heart raced as I lay still. Was I safe here? The soft whispers surrounded me, words that peeled away the taut fear. "Stay. Please stay," they sang. But they weren't in the wind anymore. They were coming from below. I felt the ground shift around me like it was alive. Something was waiting. Something had followed me into the dark. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone anymore. I pushed myself up, my hands sinking into the cold, damp ground. I felt so disoriented, unsure of where I was. The whispers continued, a soft chorus filling the silence. "Stay. Please stay." It was like they were begging me to remain just a moment longer. I looked around, scanning the darkness. I could barely make out the contours of the walls that surrounded me. They felt smooth and twisted, like the space I had fallen into was both a cave and a tomb. The air was thicker down here, heavy with a musty scent that made me want to gag. The whispers grew louder, almost desperate. Shadows shifted and curled around me, as if they wanted to pull me in. I needed to find an exit. I pushed against the ground, feeling my way forward. Each movement was slow and hesitant. I had to combat the rising wave of panic that crept up my spine. That's when I heard that skittering noise again, the sound of something small racing nearby. It came from the left, quick and erratic. My heart pounded. I pressed myself against the wall, frozen. What was it? It wasn't the laughter from before. This felt different, more frantic, like it was desperate to escape as much as I was. Then something brushed against my leg. I yelped and jumped back, but there was nothing there. The skittering had stopped, replaced by a soft thud that reverberated through the darkness. It sounded heavier now, more deliberate. Panic reached a fever pitch in my heart. I needed to see. I reached out, clumsily feeling around in the dark. My fingers grazed something smooth and cylindrical. I grabbed it instinctively, and it glowed faintly in my grip. A small stone. The glow was comforting for a moment, but then it flickered, and I could hear the whispers growing louder around me. "Stay! Who are you?" I called out, the words almost swallowed by fear. "What do you want?" The whispers paused. A silence folded over the darkness, thick and sudden. I held my breath, waiting for a response that I knew wouldn't come. Just as I began to lose hope, I heard a soft, shuffling sound. It was closer now. I squinted into the dark and spotted something moving. It was small, a figure made up of shadows and flickers. The outline danced just out of clear view, teasing me with a glimpse before hiding again. My heart raced. I didn't want to be here anymore. I had to find a way out. Suddenly the ground rumbled beneath me, and fear gripped me tighter. A darkness moved in the periphery, almost like the shadows were alive. A low growl echoed, reminding me I wasn't just in a confined space. I was surrounded. That's when I saw it, a flash of eyes gleaming in the darkness. Something else was down here with me. I turned to run, scrambling back the way I came, but it was too late. I felt something cold wrap around my ankle, pulling me down. Before I knew it, I was being dragged deeper into the dark, the whispers blending into a maddening chorus as I fought for freedom. "Please stay," they echoed, but my instincts screamed the opposite. I needed to survive. I struggled against whatever had seized my ankle, panic flooding my veins. The ground felt slick beneath me, and I clawed at the dirt, trying to get a grip as I was pulled further into the shadows. The whispers grew louder, enveloping me like a thick fog. I could hardly think. My heart raced, pounding in my ears, drowning out everything else. Just as I thought I'd be consumed by the darkness, I managed to twist around, wildly grasping for anything solid. I found a small rock, sharp and cold. With a surge of adrenaline, I swung it in the direction of the grip holding me down. My aim was erratic, but it broke the hold, and I felt the tension release. I scrambled away, trying to create distance from whatever had tried to claim me. Gasping, I panted as I backed into a wall. The stone I'd found earlier was still in my hand, flickering dimly as if it understood the urgency of the moment. I took a quick glance around, trying to catch my breath and figure out what to do next. The darkness was shifting again, forming shapes I struggled to define. Farther down the cavern, I noticed a faint light pulsing like a heartbeat. It was rhythmic and inviting, cutting through the chaos. My instinct was to run toward it, but I hesitated. The last thing I wanted was to fall deeper into whatever trap this place had set for me. Yet the thought of staying in the dark was worse. I couldn't stay here. I had to move. I made my way toward the light, pushing aside my fear. The whispers dimmed as I approached, replaced by a low buzzing sound. Each step drew me closer to the source, and I felt that flicker of hope igniting again. When I reached the light, I discovered it wasn't just a simple glow. It emanated from an object half buried in the dirt, an ornate mirror, its frame carved with strange, swirling designs. The glass was cracked, but still somehow reflected a bright gleam. I leaned closer, compelled. As I looked into the mirror, my heart sank. The reflection was distorted, showing me a figure that wasn't there. It was the same shape I had glimpsed earlier, but now it looked whole. A shadow monster with glowing eyes poised behind me, just out of sight. I could feel it creeping closer, creeping into my thoughts. I spun around, heart racing, but there was nothing there. I turned back to the mirror, staring hard. The figure was becoming clearer in the reflection, and I could just make out its features. A face that resembled mine, but twisted in torment. My breath caught. "What are you?" I whispered, desperate for answers. And then I realized the whispers had stopped. There was only silence, but that silence felt thick, almost suffocating. I took a step back, feeling the weight of its presence pressing down on me. My hands trembled, still holding the glowing stone, which dimmed the darker it grew. Suddenly, a cold draft swept through the cavern, snuffing out the light from the stone. I felt the darkness close in around me. I had to make a choice. Stay and face the horrors I couldn't understand, or run towards those glowing eyes, wherever they led. I dashed forward, driven by fear and resolve, but as I bolted away, I glanced back one final time at the mirror. That reflection, that face. What if it was telling me something? What if it wanted me to join it? Then I plunged deeper into the shadows, heart racing as I chased the distant echo of freedom. I stumbled forward, the darkness swallowing my every step. Each breath was ragged, filled with a mix of fear and the raw adrenaline still coursing through my veins. I couldn't shake the image from the mirror. The thing that looked like me haunted my thoughts. What did it want? The cold draft pushed past me again, more forceful this time, and I shivered involuntarily. I needed to find light, something to hold on to. As I moved, I spotted what looked like a tunnel branching off to my right. It was hard to tell how far it went, but the darkness beyond felt even more foreboding. I hesitated at the entrance, glancing back at where I'd just come from. There was nothing but blackness. The echo of my own breath filled the air. I could feel the whispers stirring again, murmurs that brushed just beyond my understanding. I took a step into the tunnel, barely able to see where I was going. The sound of dripping water echoed in the silence, each drop a stark reminder that I wasn't alone. After a few steps, I noticed something shimmering on the ground. I knelt down, rubbing the dirt off a small silver locket. It felt warm in my hand, and I could see faint engravings on its surface. Curiosity tugged at me, and I opened it. Inside was a tiny portrait of a girl, her eyes wide and filled with light. A chill ran through me as I realized she resembled the face from the mirror, but there was no torment in her expression, only innocence. Somehow this locket felt familiar, a connection I couldn't place. I closed it quickly, but it was like opening a door I couldn't shut. I felt the whispers reforming, now more insistent, swirling around me like a storm. The locket pulsed with warmth, and my grip tightened around it. Whatever this place was, it was tied to me in a way that made my skin crawl. Suddenly there was a loud bang from deeper within the tunnel. I tensed. Whatever thumped echoed directly around me, reverberating against the stone walls like a warning. My heart dropped. Someone or something was down here with me. I wasn't alone anymore. In a rush, I got back to my feet, clutching the locket to my chest as I turned to run back. But before I could take 2 steps, I paused. The sound had come again, followed by a soft, indistinct voice calling my name. It sent chills down my spine. "Help me!" I froze. The fear that swept over me made my limbs feel heavy, but I knew I had to decide. Should I follow the voice? Was it a trick? Or should I keep running? The locket felt warm against my palm, almost urging me forward. One lingering question buzzed in my mind. Who was really asking for help? The girl in the locket or something far darker? My hands trembled as I steeled myself. Then, with no time to waste, I plunged deeper into the tunnel, drawn by a force I didn't understand. I needed answers, and I was ready to find them, whatever the cost. As I took my first steps deeper into the tunnel, my heart raced. The dimness closed in like a heavy fog. I could still hear the distant dripping of water, but the soft, pleading voice tugged at me, guiding me forward. I wished for a light, a beacon to show me if I was making a terrible mistake. "Help me." The voice echoed again, this time sounding more desperate. Each syllable felt like a thread pulling me closer. I swallowed hard. The girl in the locket was alive somewhere in this darkness, or maybe it was just a cruel trick. Either way, I had to know. The tunnel curved slightly, and I stumbled on a rock, scrambling to keep my balance. The locket slipped from my grasp for a brief moment, clattering to the stone floor. I hurriedly picked it up, breathing heavily. Just then, the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices swirling around me. I shook my head, trying to block them out. "Stop it!" I shouted into the emptiness. It only made the whispers escalate into a frenzy, drowning me in a chorus of hushed cries. I pressed the locket closer to my chest, as if it would shield me from whatever was lurking just beyond my vision. After what felt like an eternity, the tunnel opened up into a wider chamber. The edges of the space were lost in shadow. A faint light flickered from the far side, beckoning me. I hesitated, wary of every shadow that danced around me. Then the voice came again, clearer, more certain. "This way." I crossed the threshold into the chamber. As I approached the light, I saw that it came from a series of strange, glowing crystals embedded in the walls. They cast eerie shapes onto the ground. My breath hitched. The crystals looked like the locket, their surfaces glinting with an otherworldly glow. Suddenly I heard it again. A loud bang, this time much closer, reverberating from somewhere beyond the crystals. My heart raced. I was not alone. I had crossed a line. And now there was something following me, something angry with my intrusion. Instinct took over. I needed to find a way out, but the only option was to move toward the source of the voice and the light. I stepped warily, the tension palpable, my pulse pounding in my ears. Whatever lay ahead was not just a mystery. It was a confrontation waiting to happen. Then I spotted a shape in the shadows. My breath caught in my throat. A figure stood motionless just beyond the crystals, partially hidden, watching me. I could barely make out its outline. Panic bubbled inside me. "Who's there?" I called. But no answer came, only silence. The figure shifted slightly. I could sense its eyes on me, piercing through the dim light. My fingers tightened around the locket, the warmth pulsing against my skin. Just when I thought I would turn to flee, the figure stepped forward, revealing itself in the glow. It looked almost like the girl from the locket, but her face was twisted into a strange mix of fear and longing. "You have to help me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think." And just like that, the room plunged into darkness. The darkness pressed in on all sides, swallowing the glow of the chamber like a predator devours its prey. I felt the weight of something beyond the mere lack of light, an entity swirling in the shadows, hungry and restless. My heart pounded in the emptiness, an unsteady drum echoing in my ears. "Please," she begged from the void, her voice barely a whisper. The plea was tinged with a desperation I couldn't ignore. Despite my instinct to flee, I felt propelled toward her. "Help me," she repeated, and with that, the warmth surrounding the locket pulsed once more, almost like it was begging for me to trust her. "Where are you?" I called out, fighting the rising tide of panic. The air crackled with anticipation, thick with an unseen pressure, and the silence became deafening. "I'm here," she replied, drawing closer to me as the darkness ebbed ever so slightly. There was a flicker of light, too brief to grasp. I concentrated, my eyes straining against the dark, and then I caught a glimmer, a flash of her form as she moved just within reach. The creature that had been hunting me stirred in the shadows, growling low and growling loud, echoing off the walls. I felt the locket get heavy in my palm, a tether to the light in this pit of despair. "You have to trust me," the girl said, and I caught a glimpse of her hollow eyes, reflecting the faint light of the crystals beyond. Without thinking, I stumbled into the void where I last saw her, driven by curiosity and fear, a dangerous combination. The shadows shifted around me as I felt hot breath on my neck, the specter of the creature creeping just behind. "Tell me what to do," I shouted. "How can I help you?" The question was desperate, but the answer remained elusive. Was she truly a victim, an echo of innocence? Or was her invitation another way to drag me into whatever dark fate awaited this wretched place? Slowly, she pointed toward the far wall where the crystal glow flickered like a heartbeat. "That's where you'll find the truth," she whispered, her tone urgent but soft. "You must break it." Before I could ask what she meant, the creature lunged, its form breaking out of the darkness, encapsulated in a mass of shadows and malice. The girl's expression turned frantic as she backed away, merging further into the shadow. "Hurry!" I spun toward the wall, the remnants of light urging me forward. I could feel the creature's gaze pinning me in place, a weight that urged me to stay. But that flicker from the crystals called to me, bright and defiant, and without another thought I charged towards them. As I reached the crystals, I lifted the locket high. "If this means anything, tell me what to do," I shouted, desperation lacing my voice. I slammed the locket against the first crystal, the glass shattering into a glorious burst of light, illuminating the chamber in blinding brilliance. In an instant, the shadows shrieked as the glow chased them away, carving paths through the darkness that had held me captive. I could feel the strange energy surging through me, repairing the break between worlds. Facing the creature, I stood my ground, feeling both terrified and exhilarated. But the darkness didn't relent. Its fury erupted, bucking against the shards of light like a wounded animal, thrashing as if it could reclaim its hold over this realm. The girl's frightened eyes met mine, a mixture of hope and fear swirling within them. "Don't stop! Break them all!" I moved from crystal to crystal, unleashing the light embedded within each jagged fragment, as the shadows writhed and twisted around me. Each time one shattered, the echoes of laughter morphed into wails, screams that pierced my heart. With each explosion of brilliance, a piece of that dark force vanished, until I reached the last crystal. This one pulsed with a deep sadness that resonated throughout the chamber. "No!" the girl cried out, but I knew there was no turning back. I thrust the locket against it, and with a deafening crack, the crystal shattered, slivers raining like glittering stars, illuminating the room and flooding it with blinding light. In that moment, everything seemed to explode. The shadows recoiled violently, flailing as they screamed in throaty rage, the creature meeting its end in a brilliant flash. As the light engulfed everything, I could see that girl's face again, serene and illuminated as she glanced my way one last time. Then the world went white, an overwhelming surge that consumed me. When clarity returned, I found myself back in my living room, sitting on my couch, heart racing, breath quickened. The soft hum of the outside world surrounded me. The gentle wind, the soft sounds of distant children playing in the newly fallen snow. I looked around, half expecting to see remnants of shadows lurking in the corners, but there was nothing. Just an ordinary evening, the house quiet as before. Confusion washed over me, and I reached for the small silver locket that now rested on my table. I opened it, but the portrait of the girl was gone. In its place, a smooth, reflective surface stared back at me, revealing my own reflection, but haunted somehow. Echoes of the laughter still danced in my ears, and I felt a chill wash over me despite the warmth of the room. I wanted to forget, to move forward unburdened, yet deep inside, something lingered. Questions swirled through my mind. Had I truly escaped, or had I merely slipped through the threads of reality? I could still feel the weight of what happened, and the shadows lurking just at the edges of my consciousness. That winter twilight might have brought me home, but it didn't erase the memory of what I encountered. I couldn't shake the feeling that the darkness hadn't been entirely vanquished. In their hidden corners, the questions remained. Would they come back? I shivered despite myself, knowing I would never be really alone, not again.